My daughter-in-law called and said, "Your son died last night. The funeral will be on Sunday. He left all his assets to me. You get nothing." I just smiled. She didn't know. My son was standing right beside me. Before the story begins, please write in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe so Stories with Meaning can continue to grow and bring you even more powerful stories. Exactly at midnight, I sat alone in the living room, my phone resting in my hand. The house was silent. Earlier that morning, Daniel had said, "I'll call you this evening, Mom." He never forgot. Even a short message, he always checked in. But evening came, then sunset passed, night fell, nothing. Now it was nearly midnight. The unease in my chest kept growing heavier. I tapped Daniel's name on my phone. It rang and rang, then disconnected. I tried again. This time it went straight to voicemail. I tried once more. Same result. "Daniel, where are you?" I whispered. "Mom's worried. Please call me back." I stared at the screen, hoping for a miracle. Nothing. My fingers still held the phone, but it felt like gripping a stone. Maybe his meeting ran late. Maybe he's exhausted and fell asleep, I told myself. But my body said otherwise. My hands were cold. My palms were damp. My eyes drifted to another name. Emily, my daughter-in-law. A city woman, smart, articulate, always well-dressed. Her lifestyle had never matched mine, but for Daniel's sake, I stayed quiet. I pressed her name. It rang 3 times. No answer. "Probably asleep," I muttered, but dark thoughts had already begun circling my mind. "Stop it, Martha. You're just worrying too much." The clock read 11:59. The second hand crept closer to 12. I stood, walked to the kitchen, drank a glass of water, then returned to the same chair. Same position, same phone. The moment the clock softly marked the new day, my phone vibrated violently. Emily. My heart pounded. I grabbed the phone. "Hello, Emily? Where's Daniel? I've been calling him all night." There was no greeting, no pause, just a flat sentence. "Your son died earlier this evening." The room seemed to shrink. "What?" My voice broke. "Don't joke like that, Emily. Did Daniel have an accident? Which hospital? I'll come right now." "I'm not joking, Mom," she said coldly. "Daniel was in an accident. He passed away. Everything's been taken care of. The funeral is Sunday." I gripped the back of the chair, afraid my legs would give out. "Why am I only hearing this now? Why didn't you call earlier? I need to see my son. I need to hold him." "Since this afternoon, I've handled everything alone. The police, the hospital, the paperwork, the insurance. I'm exhausted. It's late. Why come now? He's already gone." I nearly screamed. "My child died, and you're asking why I should come?" She exhaled sharply. "I'm not calling to argue. There's something that needs to be clear so there's no conflict later." Tears filled my eyes. "What could possibly be more important than my son's death?" "Daniel left a will," Emily said quickly. "He left everything to me. The house, the savings, the insurance, the business, everything. You get nothing." For a moment I was silent, not because of the money, but because of how casually she said it, as if she were listing prizes. "Emily," my voice barely carried, "I never asked Daniel for anything. I only wanted my son." "That's why you don't lose anything," she replied bitterly. "This is just so it's clear. When it comes to the inheritance, don't comment. Everything's notarized. It's legal." "Who do you think I am? A stranger? My chest burned. Did you ever ask what I need? I only wanted to hear my son's voice, not his money. Don't get emotional, she replied coolly. It's normal for a husband to leave everything to his wife and child. Daniel trusted me to manage things. If you cooperate, we stay peaceful. If not, don't blame me if Lily doesn't visit you much anymore. Lily, my granddaughter, the child who always ran into my arms shouting, "Grandma, I missed you!" Her innocent face flashed through my mind, mixed with the word dead that Emily just used to describe her father. You're using my granddaughter to threaten me? My voice trembled. Your son just died, and you're already arranging assets and leverage? I'm just explaining reality, she said. The funeral's on Sunday. Come if you want. If not, that's fine. The line went dead. I stared at the black screen. The clock kept ticking. The fan kept spinning. But everything felt distant, as if I'd been left alone in a different world. I tried calling Daniel again. A mechanical voice answered. "The number you have dialed." I hung up immediately. I refused to hear the rest. Tears began to fall. First slowly, then violently. My shoulders shook, my chest tightened. "Daniel, my son, you're really gone?" I hugged the phone to my chest. In a living room once filled with Daniel's laughter and Lily's footsteps, I sat frozen, destroyed by a single phone call. I don't know how long I sat there crying. My throat burned, my eyes ached. The phone lay beside me, dark and lifeless. God, if this is a dream, please wake me up. Memories flooded in. His childhood smile, his first job, his call that morning. "Mom, pray my meeting goes well." I'd even been annoyed that he hung up quickly. Now they said he was gone. My chest felt crushed. I leaned back and closed my eyes. Breathing was hard. Then, a sound. Very faint, like something brushing the back wall of the house. I stopped crying, held my breath. Probably a raccoon, I thought, or the wind. But seconds later, another sound. A weak knock. Tap, tap. It was past midnight. "Who's there?" I called out. No answer. The knocking returned, softer, weaker. Cold fear crawled up my spine. Old stories surfaced in my mind. Midnight spirits, restless souls. "Don't be stupid, Martha," I scolded myself. I grabbed the broom by the cabinet, gripping it like a weapon. Slowly, I walked towards the kitchen. The dim light was already on. The floor felt icy beneath my feet. The sound now came clearly from the back door. "Who is it?" I asked again. Then, a voice, barely audible. "Mom, Mom, please help." A man's voice, raspy, weak. But the way he said "Mom" pierced straight through my heart. "Who is it?" I whispered. Then, "Mom, it's Daniel." The world stopped. The broom slipped from my hand. That wasn't possible. Emily just said he was dead, just minutes ago. My heart pounded violently. Fear, hope, shock colliding at once. "Daniel? Daniel, is that you?" Outside, heavy breathing. Something leaned weakly against the door. "Mom, open the door, please." Without thinking, I unlocked it. My hands shook so badly I fumbled with the key. Click. The door opened. The smell of wet earth and blood hid me. Under the dim light of the kitchen stood a man, barely upright. His work clothes were torn, soaked in mud and blood. his face bruised, lips split, one eye swollen shut, breathing shallow and strained. I knew that face, that jawline, that nose, that thinning hairline. Even broken and battered, it was the face I had raised since birth. Daniel, my voice disappeared. He tried to smile. It broke my heart. Mom, he whispered. Then his knees buckled. I screamed and caught him just in time. He was heavy. I nearly fell with him, but somehow I found the strength. Inside, son. Come inside. Don't pass out here. I dragged him into the house. Blood trailed across the floor. Finally, I laid him down on a thin mat in the living room. I knelt beside him, shaking. I was about to stand up when Daniel's hand suddenly clutched my wrist. The grip was weak, but strong enough to stop me. "No hospital," he whispered, shaking his head slightly. His face twisted in pain, his lips trembling. "They're looking for me." "Who?" My heart began pounding wildly again. Daniel tried to take a deep breath, but it turned into a cough. A trace of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Emily," he murmured. "Emily tried to kill me. Randy, too. They made it look like I was dead." The name hit my head like a hammer. Emily, my daughter-in-law, the woman who had just called me with a flat voice, telling me my son was dead, telling me I would get nothing. "Don't believe her, Mom," Daniel forced the words out, his eyes searching for mine. "Don't give her anything." "Was it an accident?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Or did they beat you?" Daniel opened his mouth, but only a faint groan came out. His eyes tried to stay open, then slowly closed. The hand gripping my wrist went limp. "Daniel, don't sleep yet," I whispered desperately, shaking his shoulder gently. "Open your eyes. Look at Mom. We have to see a doctor." No response. His chest still rose and fell, but barely. Cold sweat soaked his temples. My head filled with noise. Hospital. Ambulance. Emily. Police. Randy. Kill. If I took Daniel to a major hospital, his name would go into the system. If Emily and the man he mentioned really wanted him dead, they could find him easily. But if I did nothing, if I kept him here without medical help, what if he bled out right in front of me? I looked at my son lying there. Half an hour ago, I was convinced he was dead. Now he was bleeding on my living room floor, begging me not to trust his own wife. My hand trembled as I reached for my phone on the small table. Emily's name lit up the screen, as if challenging me. Just 1 inch. If my thumb moved 1 inch, I could call her, scream at her. But I stopped. Daniel groaned softly, unconscious. One thing was clear. My son was alive, and someone wanted to make sure he never woke up again. I stood frozen in the middle of the room, phone in my hand, breathing hard. On the floor, Daniel lay pale, his chest rising slowly, wounds still open. I couldn't do this alone. My hand shook as I opened my contact list. My eyes stopped on one name. Dylan, the neighbor's kid from the next alley, a college student, always messy hair, worked part-time as a rideshare driver and at a repair shop. He was like a son to me, always helped with groceries, fixed leaky faucets around the house. I pressed his name. "Hello, Mrs. Martha?" Dylan's voice sounded sleepy.
Dylan, please come to my house right now, I said without greeting. My voice trembled. Don't ask questions. It's urgent. Please hurry. I heard movement on the other end. Yes, ma'am. 10 minutes. Lock your doors. Don't open for anyone else. I ended the call and locked the front door. Back in the living room, I knelt beside Daniel, turning his head slightly. His breathing was heavy. Hold on, son, I whispered, brushing his hair, sticky with sweat and blood. Help is coming. Minutes later, a motorcycle stopped outside the front door. A soft knock on the front door. Mrs. Martha, it's Dylan. I rushed to the door and unlocked it. Dylan's eyes widened when he saw my tear-soaked face. Oh my God, ma'am, what happened? You're so pale. Come in first, I cut him off. Park the bike on the porch. Be quiet. Once the door was shut, I pulled Dylan toward the living room. The moment he saw Daniel, he froze. Oh, God, he covered his mouth. Isn't this Daniel? But wasn't it said in the family chat that he died? He's alive, I answered quickly. But look at him. If we take him to the hospital, I'm afraid the people who want him dead will find out. Dylan swallowed hard, his eyes darting between me and Daniel. Who wants to kill him? Emily and that man, I said quietly. Randy. Daniel told me before he passed out. Dylan took a deep breath and nodded. Okay, man, let's focus on saving Daniel first. Do you have a doctor who can come to the house? I nodded slowly. There's Dr. Sandra. She runs a small clinic near the neighborhood chapel. She knows me. Call her now, Dylan said. I'll adjust Daniel's position. I hurried to the kitchen, searching for my glasses, then opened my contacts. I pressed Dr. Sandra. After several rings, a half-asleep woman answered. Hello? Who is this? Doctor, this is Martha, your patient who often checks her blood pressure. I'm sorry to call so late. Please, this is an emergency. My son is badly injured. Could you come to my house? I'm afraid to take him to the hospital. My voice broke at the last sentence. Please calm down first, she said, suddenly serious. Was he in an accident? He was attacked, I replied. I can't explain everything right now, but please, if you're late, I'm afraid I'll lose him for real. Silence. Then Dr. Sandra said, All right, send me the full address by text. I'll come as soon as I can, but I won't have full hospital equipment. If the wounds are too severe, we'll still need to consider referral. Thank you, doctor. Please hurry. I sent the location and returned to the living room. Dylan had removed Daniel's torn shirt and covered him with a thin clinket. I'm not a doctor, Dylan said quietly, but this looks like it needs stitches. The bleeding slowed, but it's still seeping. I sat on the floor, resting Daniel's head on my lap. Hold on, son. The doctor's coming. Time crawled. Every minute felt like an hour. Then my phone rang. Emily. My chest burned instantly. Dylan glanced at me, tense. Are you going to answer? He whispered. I stared at the screen, gripping the phone tightly. Then I let it ring until it stopped. A message notification followed. I didn't open it. Not long after, a knock came at the front door. Dylan raised his hand, signaling he'd check. He peeked through the curtain. It's the doctor. She's carrying a medical bag. I exhaled in relief. We opened the door quickly. Dr. Sandra entered, wearing a long jacket, medical bag in hand. The moment she saw Daniel, her expression hardened. My God, this is not a simple injury. She knelt immediately. Please prepare warm water, brighter lighting, and clean cloths. Dylan, help me." I obeyed, my hands busy, but my mind in chaos. Daniel's words echoed again and again. "Emily tried to kill me. Don't trust her." For nearly an hour, Dr. Sandra worked, cleaning wounds, injecting medication, stitching, bandaging. The living room, once Lily's play space, became an emergency treatment room. "For now, his condition can be handled here," Dr. Sandra said, exhausted, "but he needs complete rest. I'll come back tomorrow to check. If there are signs of severe infection, we'll have no choice but to go to the hospital." "And if we go to the hospital," I hesitated, then forced myself to speak. "What if someone is trying to make sure he dies?" Dr. Sandra stared at me sharply. "Mrs. Martha, what is really going on here?" "I'm a doctor," she continued, "but if this involves a crime, the police must be involved." "I want the police too," I replied softly, "but I need time. My son just escaped the grave. If I report this now, I'm afraid they'll find out he's alive." Dylan spoke up, calm but firm. "Doc, please help us hide Daniel for now. I'll help guard him." Dr. Sandra sighed deeply. "All right, I won't report this yet, but you must promise if his condition worsens, we go to the hospital, no matter the risk." I nodded quickly, tears welling again. Her narrow eyes were faintly rimmed with red. Whether from crying or by design, I couldn't tell. She wore a simple black dress and a dark gray shawl, her makeup lighter than usual. Still, I knew her well. She understood how to arrange a face. There was a neat, composed look of a grieving widow. "Mom," she said, hugging me without greeting. Her body was warm. The sharp scent of expensive perfume filled my senses. "I'm sorry I couldn't come sooner," Emily said. "Since last night, I've been running between the hospital, the police station, and the insurance office." Her embrace felt like a snare. I let it happen. Slowly, I hugged her back, pretending to be weak. "Emily," my voice came out hoarse. "So, it's true?" she said, pulling away quickly, her eyes glassy. "Daniel is really gone?" "I was shocked too, Mom. Yesterday afternoon, my hand was still holding Daniel's. I thought he'd just passed out. Turns out—" She covered her mouth and lowered her head. No tears fell, but a soft, controlled sob escaped, too tidy, like something rehearsed. I steadied her face. "Why was I only told late at night?" I asked quietly, playing the role of a shattered mother. Emily walked into the living room without waiting to be invited and sat on the sofa. "Everything happened so suddenly," she said. "The police, the hospital, the paperwork, I handled it all alone." "You know my family lives far away," she continued. "Daniel had only me to take care of things. I thought if I called you late at night, you might collapse from shock. That's why I waited until midnight." My head burned. If I hadn't opened the back door last night, my son might have died on the street. But I swallowed every ounce of that fury. Not now. "Where is the body now?" I asked softly. "At the funeral home," she replied. "Saturday afternoon it will be brought here, and Sunday morning is the burial. I've arranged everything. You don't need to worry." She pulled a folder from her large handbag and placed it on the table. "What's that?" I asked, though my heart already knew. "These are Daniel's important documents," she said, opening the folder. "The house deeds, land titles, insurance policies, bank books, and the will. I just want you to know so there's no confusion later." I stared at the papers. Daniel's name was printed clearly across several certificates.
One document read, Last Will and Testament of Daniel Sedeva. This states that all of Daniel's assets go to Emily and Lily as heirs, the house in the residential complex, the savings, the insurance. You don't receive a share. Daniel once told me, Mom never asked for anything. She won't mind. A precise stab. I took a slow breath. I never asked for Daniel's money, Emily, I replied quietly. I only wanted to see my child one last time. Of course, Mom, she smiled faintly, as if praising a child. That's why I came right away, so you wouldn't misunderstand. If the inheritance becomes a family conflict, it would hurt Daniel's name. I looked into her eyes. Behind the sadness, I saw comfort, confidence. She was certain her plan had worked, certain Daniel was truly gone. In that case, I accept it, I said at last, lowering my gaze. I don't have any rights. Everything Daniel owned, he built with you. I'm just living here. For the first time since she arrived, Emily blinked in surprise. Perhaps she had expected me to scream about the inheritance. Seeing me surrender so easily, her face softened slightly. Thank you, Mom, for understanding, she said gently. If you need money for daily expenses, just tell me. I'll help, as long as you don't interfere with my matters or Lily's. I prayed silently. What do you mean? I asked. I just don't want trouble later, she explained. If I decide to sell one of Daniel's assets, say the house, you won't object to the extended family. This house will remain yours. I'll also manage the public news carefully. I clenched the fists in my lap, but forced a thin smile. As long as you take care of Lily, I said, I won't interfere with your life. Emily's phone vibrated. She glanced at the screen and stood up. Excuse me, Mom, work call. She stepped onto the front porch, but her voice was still faintly audible inside. I held my breath. My ears sharpened. Hello, Andre, she said sweetly. Yes, I'm at his mother's house. Everything's fine. She believes Daniel is dead. Yes, the inheritance is smooth. Insurance, too. His name wasn't Andre. It was Randy. I knew, from stories, from photos that occasionally surfaced on social media, always labeled a coworker. I gripped the fabric in my lap. Behind me, in the small back room, my dead son lay in pain while his wife casually discussed insurance money with another man. Relax, we'll still go, Emily's voice continued. Wait until the insurance payout clears, then we can start a new life. Yes, with Lily, as long as Daniel's mother doesn't cause trouble. I slowly stood. If I stayed seated, I might explode. Minutes later, Emily returned to the living room, placing the documents back into her bag. I should go now, Mom. There's still a lot to handle. Take care of yourself. If you need anything, let me know. I nodded. Yes, Emily, thank you for coming. She hugged me again, shorter this time. Stay strong, Mom. Now we only have Lily. We must be strong for her. We. I wanted to laugh, but I swallowed it. After Emily left, the house fell silent again. I locked the door slowly and walked to the back room. Dylan sat on the floor, watching me tensely. How did it go? He asked. I glanced at Daniel, making sure his breathing was steady, then replied softly, Starting today, everyone officially believes Daniel is dead. And Emily has made sure she doesn't see me as a threat. I took a long breath, not just from grief, but because a resolution was hardening in my chest. Good, I continued. Let her feel safe. Let her think she's won. That's exactly where we begin to strike back. In the days following that night, my life revolved only around the kitchen, the back room, and the front door. Every morning, Dr. Sandra came to check Daniel's wounds, change bandages, and administer injections. Dylan ran back and forth buying medicine, food, and cleaning the last traces of blood. If neighbors asked, we answered briefly. Mrs. Martha isn't feeling well. She's staying inside. In the family group chat, photos of Daniel began circulating. Condolences poured in. In loving memory of the late Daniel Sedeva, husband of Emily Carter, loving father of Lily. Every word late felt like a knife, but I stayed silent. It was part of the play I had chosen. One evening, as the light faded, I sat on a small plastic chair beside Daniel's bed. He could sit halfway up right now, leaning on pillows. His face was still pale, but his eyes were clearer. "You're tired, Mom?" he asked softly. I smiled faintly. "A little tired is fine, as long as you can still ask that." He smiled back. Then it faded. Something weighed behind his eyes. "Mom, you need to know everything. About Emily, about Randy, about why I almost died." "Rest first," I said instinctively. "Don't force yourself to remember." He shook his head. "If I stay silent, I stay a victim," he said. "I don't want that anymore." That sentence stunned me. The Daniel who always yielded, who always said, "It's okay, Mom, I'll endure it." Now he said he refused to be a victim. I took a long breath. "If you're strong enough, tell me. I'm listening." Daniel closed his eyes briefly, as if arranging broken pieces. "It started when I suspected Emily was cheating," he said. "At first, small things. She came home late, said she was working overtime, but her perfume was different, one she never used before. She smiled at her phone a lot." My chest tightened. "Did you confront her?" "At first, no. I thought I was being paranoid. But one day I saw a message pop up on her phone. She left it unlocked on the table. The name Randy appeared." He paused. "The messages weren't something you should hear, but it was clear they were already a couple." I clenched the edge of the blanket. "That night I waited for her. When she got home, I asked her quietly, 'What is your relationship with Randy?' She exploded, said I didn't trust her, said I was dramatic. We fought. Lily cried in her room. After that, I don't remember anything except the sound of my mother opening the door." I covered my face with my hands. My chest felt painfully full. The child I once chased to school because I was afraid he'd fall off his bike was now telling me how he had been kicked to the edge of death by his own wife. "Why did you say Emily wanted to kill you?" I asked quietly, even though I already knew the answer because I had heard them talking. "Mom," Daniel replied, "before I completely passed out on the road, I heard Emily say to Randy, 'If he dies, we're free. The insurance money will be paid out, the house, the savings, everything will be ours, and Lily can be taken far away from her trashy family.'" That word, trashy, felt like a slap across my face. For a moment, we sat in silence. Only the hum of the sand filled the room. The bedroom door was knocked softly. Dylan came in carrying 2 glasses of tea. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Martha. I overheard a little," he said carefully. "Please be careful, Daniel. I'm really sorry about all this, but if everything you said is true, then we can find evidence. There's no way they left no trace." I wiped my tears with the edge of my shawl. "What kind of evidence?" I asked. "CCTV," Dylan answered. "A friend of mine works at a repair shop near Cliff Road. He told me a few days ago the police came asking for street camera footage. They said there'd been a car accident. I didn't think much of it then, but now it could have been Daniel's car." My heart started pounding. "The CCTV could show Emily and that man?" I asked. If the front area was covered, yes, Dylan said. But usually the police only take the clips they want. The full footage might still be at the repair shop or at the small convenience store next door. I looked at Daniel, then at Dylan. Out of fear, something else suddenly rose in my chest. Hope. A chance to fight back. Tomorrow we go there, I said firmly. Dylan, you talk. Tell them we're family of the victim and want to see what happened. If needed, we'll buy a copy of the footage. Dylan nodded. Got it, Mrs. Martha. I know the shop owner a bit. He's a regular at the place. Daniel looked uneasy. Mom, isn't this dangerous? What if Emily finds out we're looking for evidence? She thinks you're dead, I cut in calmly but firmly. That's our advantage. She's busy with insurance claims, busy crying in front of people. Let her stay busy with her world. Meanwhile, we prepare another world for her, the courtroom. Even I was surprised by my own words, but once spoken, they felt right. That night, before sleeping, I sat beside Daniel. I used to tell you to be patient whenever Emily crossed the line, I said softly. I'm sorry. Patience should never be given to people who want to take your life. Daniel looked at me, his eyes glistening. So what are you going to do, Mom? I brushed his hair gently. I'm done being a victim. I'm done crying in the corner of this house. Starting tomorrow, we won't just hide, we fight back, but not recklessly. We fight with the truth. Daniel nodded slowly. Then I'm with you, Mom, as much as I can. I gave a thin smile. For the first time since that horrific night, I didn't just feel fear. I felt focused anger that could move forward. The next morning, Dylan and I sat in front of an old laptop on the dining table. The kitchen light was bright. The curtains were tightly shut. Beside me was a small flash drive we'd brought back from the repair shop near Cliff Road the night before. The owner had hesitated when we asked for the footage, but when Dylan explained that I was the victim's mother and only wanted to see my son's last moments, his face softened. He copied several clips onto the flash drive without many questions. Ready, Mrs. Martha? Dylan asked. I nodded, even though my heart was pounding hard. Dylan pressed play. Footage from a slightly elevated street camera appeared. The quality wasn't great, but clear enough. That's Daniel's car, I whispered, when I saw the gray sedan enter from the left side of the screen and slowly pull over. A few seconds later, the driver's door opened. Daniel stepped out, appearing to talk to someone inside. Then another vehicle stopped behind him. Two people got out, one tall, broad man, and a woman wearing a shawl. Slim figure, familiar walk. Emily, my voice broke. On screen, they approached Daniel. There was a rough movement, like pushing. The camera angle was too far to see clearly, but Daniel's body was dragged off the road toward an area outside the camera's view. After that, only Emily and the man returned to the road, got into the second car, and drove away. Daniel's car was left behind, then slowly rolled forward and disappeared out of frame. I covered my mouth. Tears immediately fell. All this time, I'd only heard Daniel's story. Now I had seen it with my own eyes. My son didn't fall because of bad luck. He was set up. Is this enough, Dylan? Asked anxiously. It's enough for me to stop doubting, I answered softly. My voice trembled, but something inside me hardened. Now we're not just accusing, we have our first proof. The following days moved quickly. Emily sent messages in the family chat, arranging funeral details. Daniel's body would arrive Saturday afternoon. Please pray. She painted herself as the strong wife handling everything alone. Saturday afternoon, I had to go to their house. There was no avoiding it. If I didn't show up, the extended family would grow suspicious. But leaving Daniel alone at home wasn't an option neither. "I'll stay, Mom," Dylan said. "Dr. Sandra and I will watch over Daniel. Just go for a bit. If anything happens, I'll call." I nodded. Daniel, now able to sit on the edge of the bed, looked tense. "I want to come too, Mom." "No," I cut him off firmly. "You're not strong enough, and it's too risky. Do you think you could handle watching people mourn an empty coffin with your name on it?" He went quiet, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but please be careful, Mom. Don't go alone. There will be a lot of family there. If Emily plans anything, she wouldn't dare do it in front of everyone. I want to see how far she can keep acting." That afternoon, I stood in front of Daniel and Emily's large house. A mourning tent had been set up. Plastic chairs lined the yard. Condolence wreaths filled the gate. On one of them I read, "Deepest condolences from Daniel's office and wife." The word wife felt like a thorn in my side. Inside, relatives greeted me. "Be strong, Martha. Stay strong." They hugged me one by one. I cried just enough, keeping my tears neither dry nor excessive. In the living room, a closed coffin sat in the center. Daniel's smiling photo rested on top, flanked by 2 candles. I stared at the coffin for a long time. Inside it, who knows what was really there? The police had reported the body was burned beyond recognition and identified only by documents. But I knew what they found might have been someone else, or just remains from the car. My son was at home. Emily sat near the coffin, dressed in full black, her shawl neatly arranged. Lily sat on her lap, her small face swollen from crying. When she saw me, Lily jumped down and clung tightly to my waist. "Grandma, why is Daddy sleeping? Why is the coffin closed? Lily wants to see Daddy." I held her tightly. "Daddy is resting, sweetheart," I said softly. "Pray for him, okay?" Emily stood and hugged me, crying. "He left too soon, Mom." I felt a small tremor in her shoulder. Whether it was real grief or just exhaustion, I didn't know. Even evil people can cry for themselves. Across the room, I saw a man standing with his phone. Neat, handsome, confident. He glanced at Emily now and then. I knew without introduction. That was Randy. Our eyes met briefly. He gave a polite, shallow smile. I returned it with a small nod. In my heart, I carved his name into the list of people who would pay. The burial on Sunday passed quickly. The coffin was lowered. Prayers flowed. Soil covered it. In everyone else's eyes, Daniel was truly gone. In mine, what was buried that day was Emily's chance to escape. From now on, every wrong step she took, we would follow. That night, after everything ended, I returned home. Dylan had just put Daniel to sleep. Dr. Sandra had left hours earlier. "All clear, Mom." The morning after the attempted break-in, I sat at the dining table with trembling hands, holding a cup of tea. The tea had gone cold, but I hadn't taken a single sip. "Mom," Dylan said quietly, "if we just keep hiding, they'll come back. Today it was the window. Next time it could be the door. We can't just wait." "I know," I replied softly. "Last night we were lucky you woke up first. If not, Daniel might already be gone in that bed." Daniel sat leaning against an old wheelchair we'd borrowed from a neighbor. His face was pale, but his eyes were sharp. "I'm the one who's making all of you live in fear like this," he said quietly. "I don't want to be just a burden, Mom. If this has to be fought, then we fight." I looked at him for a long time.
The son who had always given in for the sake of his marriage was now talking about fighting back. Something inside me rose with him. I told Dylan, "We already have the CCTV footage. We know Emily and Randy were the last people with you on that road, but the full story still only exists in your head. Where are the inheritance documents now?" "With the notary," Dylan replied. "Mr. Tommy, he's the one who's handled all my assets. Emily knows him well, too. Yesterday, she went with him to the police and the insurance office, she said." The name reminded me of the folder Emily had brought when she came to my house. The will, the certificates, the insurance policies, everything already arranged. "Then the notary needs to know we have evidence," I said. "We have to meet him." Dylan nodded quickly. "I agree, Mom. If the notary knows there's dirty play, at the very least he won't just sign blindly. He might even help us." Daniel looked uncertain. "But what if Emily already bought him off?" "If he's dirty too, we face him," I answered calmly. "But we don't accuse first. We bring proof. We force him to see it." A few hours later, Dylan and I went to Mr. Tommy's notary office, with Daniel hidden in the back seat of Dylan's car under a thick blanket. The office was in a 2-story commercial building on a busy street. Before I got out, I looked at Daniel. "Stay here. Don't come out until I tell you. If they see you alive, everything collapses." Daniel nodded. "Yes, Mom, but if you take too long, call me." Dylan and I went upstairs to a small waiting room, its walls covered in framed certificates. After a short wait, we were invited into the inner office. Mr. Tommy sat behind a large desk, wearing glasses. He looked around 50, tired but polite. When he saw me, he stood. "Mrs. Martha, my condolences. I met the late Daniel a few months ago." That word, late, stabbed again. I held myself steady. "Sir," I said directly, "I'm not here to discuss inheritance. I'm here because I believe Daniel should not be called deceased." His eyebrows rose. "What do you mean?" I took a breath and opened my bag, pulling out the flash drive, several printed stills from the footage Dylan had prepared, and a medical note from Dr. Sandra detailing Daniel's injuries. "This is CCTV footage near the accident site," I explained. "This is Daniel, Emily, and a man named Randy. After Daniel was dragged out of the camera's view, only Emily and Randy returned. Daniel's car was left on the roadside and then pushed into the ravine." I continued, my voice steady. "Daniel survived and made it to my house with severe injuries. Now he's in hiding because someone has tried to make sure he's truly dead." Tommy's face went pale as he looked at the photos. His hands trembled as he held the medical note. This is serious," he said quietly. "If this is true, this isn't an accident. It's attempted murder." "That's right," Dylan added, "and Mrs. Martha doesn't have much time. Emily is already processing the transfer of assets. You're handling that, aren't you?" Tommy exhaled heavily and rubbed his forehead. "Yes, Emily came with all the documents, the will, death report, police papers, insurance administration. Everything looked legitimate. I had no idea there was something like this behind it." "Now you do," I said sharply, "and you're in a key position. Emily needs your signature to finalize everything. If you close your eyes, you're helping her finish what she started against my son." The room fell silent. Tommy looked at me for a long moment, clearly weighing his career against his conscience. He finally said firmly, "I don't want to be involved in a crime, but I also can't accuse a client without sufficient proof. This footage is strong, but matters like this must go through the police. Have you reported this yet?" I answered honestly, "We were afraid, sir, afraid the police we went to might be connected to Emily's lover, afraid Daniel would be found before we were ready. We need a clean officer. You must know someone we can trust." Tommy went quiet again, then sighed.
There is one. His name is Officer Paul Turner. He's handled several fraud cases I was involved in. He's stubborn about the law, hard to bribe. But this is a big case. Insurance, assets, family. Are you ready for that? I met his eyes. I've already lived through a night when I was certain my son was dead. Nothing is more frightening than that, sir. A few hours later, Dylan and I sat in a small room at the police station. The cold air conditioning made my palms sweat. A uniformed man entered carrying a thick folder. His face was stern, jaw set, hair neatly trimmed. "You're Mrs. Martha?" he asked. "I'm Officer Turner." I stood. "Yes, sir. Thank you for meeting us." Tommy stood beside me, mediating. "Officer Turner, I've explained briefly. Mrs. Martha has evidence you should see for yourself." We played the footage, showed the photos, explained everything, including the attempted break-in the night before. Officer Turner watched the screen without much comment. When it was over, he leaned back and rubbed his chin. "Legally," he said slowly, "Daniel's death has already been reported. If I suddenly say he's alive without him appearing, I'll be laughed out of the room. But if he appears while his death documents are still active, this becomes a major case. Insurance fraud, falsified records, staged accident, everything will have to be reopened." He looked at me. "Are you sure you want to go this far?" "They tried to kill my son twice," I replied. My voice shook, but it didn't waver. "Once on the road, the second time at my house. If I stay silent, it's the same as handing my son's head to them." Officer Turner looked at me for a few seconds, then nodded. "All right, I'll help, but we need a plan." Tommy spoke up. "Emily has scheduled the final signing of the asset transfer at my office." "That's right," Tommy added. "Next Friday, there will be a bank representative, witnesses, and possibly some family members." "Good," Officer Turner said. "We let it proceed. That's when Emily will feel the safest because she thinks everything is done. That's also when we'll have plenty of witnesses." He turned to me. "I'll need Daniel there, alive. Are you brave enough?" The image of Daniel still in pain on the bed flashed in my mind. I knew standing in front of everyone, especially Emily and Randy, would tear open emotional wounds. But without that, we only had footage and stories. "I'll talk to Daniel," I said, "but I believe he doesn't want to hide forever." Officer Turner nodded. "While we wait, I'll review the accident report, insurance documents, and everything Emily submitted. If I find inconsistencies, I'll mark them for the signing day. I'll bring a few officers," he added. "They won't wear uniforms at first. If we have enough evidence, we arrest them on the spot." Tommy added, "I'll structure the document reading so we can pause midway if needed. I can also set up a screen to play the CCTV footage as clarification." I exhaled deeply. For the first time since all this began, our plan felt clear. A date, a place, a method. When we stepped out of the police station, the afternoon sun touched my skin, hot but calming. Dylan walked beside me. "Mom?" he asked quietly. "Are you scared?" "Of course," I answered honestly, "but it's a different kind of fear. I used to fear losing Daniel. Now I fear stopping halfway, because if I stop, they win in the parking lot." Daniel was waiting in the car. His face was anxious as we approached. "How did it go, Mom?" As soon as I got in, I held his hand. "Next Friday," I said firmly, "we stand in front of Emily and Randy, not as victims they think are buried, but as living witnesses to their crime." Daniel swallowed hard. "So I have to appear?" "Yes," I replied. "This isn't just my war anymore. It's our family's war, and we'll win it in a way that leaves them no escape." The Friday we'd been waiting for finally arrived. "I'm ready, Mom," Daniel said quietly from the bed. "Better to finish this today than hide for the rest of my life." I held his hand. "If you're not strong enough, we cancel." He gave a faint smile.
I've already almost died. Now it's time to live.
After that, the two of them returned to the other car and drove away. The gray sedan slowly rolled out of the frame. "Stop!" Emily suddenly stood up. "What is this? This is a fake recording." The room fell silent. Every pair of eyes turned toward her face. Pernomo stood and pulled out a small badge wallet. "My name is Pernomo. I'm a detective," he said clearly. "This footage was obtained directly from the owner of the CCTV system. The timestamp and location match the official accident report of Daniel Sadewa." Randy spoke up, forcing calm. "The video is taken from far away, sir. The faces aren't clear. Other officers already closed this case." "That's why I didn't come here just with a video," Pernomo replied evenly. "We also have an audio recording of a conversation between Emily Kartika and Randy Bastian discussing plans to exploit Daniel's death for insurance money and assets, including the sentence, 'If he dies, we're free.'" Emily and Randy both stiffened. The bank representative lowered his head. My relatives shifted their chairs away. "This is all slander," Emily snapped, pointing at me. "This is your doing. You never loved me." I rose slowly. My legs trembled, but my voice came out steady. "If this were only about resentment, Emily, I could have accepted it when you said everything belonged to you and I got nothing. I could have dragged this into the family group chat. But instead, I hid my son, the son you left bleeding and dying at my back door." The word dying shook the room. Randy let out a short laugh. "Your son is already buried, ma'am. Don't hallucinate." I took my phone from my bag. One word, sent to Dylan. "Now." Moments later, the door opened. A man stepped inside slowly. His movements were stiff. His face bore scars, but he was undeniably alive. Dylan stood behind him. "Daniel, peace be upon you." His voice was hoarse. "Sorry I'm late to the transfer of my own assets." Emily stared without blinking, then screamed, "No, you're dead! You're supposed to be dead!" Daniel stood beside Tommy. "Apparently not," he said quietly. "The one who almost died was me, at your hands." Randy glared. "This is a double, or someone who looks like him. Don't put on a show." Daniel slowly unbuttoned his shirt, revealing stitched scars across his abdomen. "Funny, doubles usually don't have wounds in the exact same place, from where you kicked me, Randy, from where you both shoved me toward the ravine." Emily broke down, crying hysterically. "You cornered me! You deserved it!" She froze, realizing what she had just said. Pernomo didn't wait. "That's enough," he said firmly. "Based on CCTV footage, recorded conversations, falsified documents, and the testimony of a living victim, we are detaining Emily Kartika and Randy Bastian on charges of attempted premeditated murder, insurance fraud, and document forgery." Two plainclothes officers stepped forward with handcuffs. Emily struggled. "No, the media needs me. You can't drag me like this. Martha, say something. Tell them I'm not a murderer." I looked at her. In my eyes danced two images. Emily as a young woman who once called me Mom, and Daniel that night, standing at my back door soaked in blood. "I don't need to say anything anymore, Emily," I said softly. "Today, you spoke for yourself. In front of everyone." The cuffs locked around her wrists. Randy was cuffed as well, his face dark with rage. As they were escorted out, Emily screamed, "This isn't over! Karma will come for you, too!" I took a long breath. For the first time since that midnight phone call, my chest felt lighter. Several months later, I sat on a wooden bench in a courtroom. The room was cold. My palms were sweating. The judge read the verdict in a flat voice. For attempted premeditated murder, insurance fraud, and document forgery, the court sentences the defendant,
Emily Kartika to 12 years in prison and the defendant, Randy Bastian, to 15 years. The gavel struck. Once, twice, 3 times. Emily lowered her head, her face pale, eyes swollen, her shawl sitting crooked. Randy stared straight ahead, jaw tight. For a moment they looked toward us, eyes full of hatred and disbelief. I did not return the look with fear, only exhaustion and relief. Beside me, Daniel exhaled deeply. "It's over, Mom." "Not everything," I replied quietly, "but the door to justice is open." After the trial, we gathered outside, Daniel, Dylan, Dr. Sandra, Tommy, and Pernomo. Daniel's death certificate has officially been revoked. All police records have been corrected. Your name is clean. Tommy added, all asset transfers to Emily are null and void. Everything is restored to your name. The bank has also frozen and canceled the insurance payout. Daniel nodded. Thank you, all of you. I looked at my son. It's up to you now, sweetheart. What will you do with it all? In the weeks that followed, the house felt different. No longer a battlefield, just a place where tired people tried to live normally again. Daniel decided to sell the large house filled with tangled memories. I can't live in a place where every corner smells like lies, he said. Some of the money went to paying off debts. The rest went into starting a small, simpler business. I want time for Lily, he said. I used to hide at work to avoid problems at home. Now I see that's how everything spiraled out of control. I nodded. The son who once ran from conflict now wanted to face life at home. That was growth enough for me. Lily moved in with me temporarily. After custody proceedings, the court granted Daniel primary guardianship. Emily would be allowed supervised visits later after serving part of her sentence and passing evaluations. A hard decision, but a fair one. The first night Lily slept in my house, she hugged her favorite doll tightly. Grandma, is Mommy bad? The question pierced my chest. I could have said yes. I could have poured out all my bitterness, but I saw fear in Lily's eyes, and love, too. To her, Emily was still her mother. Mommy did something very wrong, I said gently, and every wrong action has consequences. She's taking responsibility somewhere else right now, but that doesn't mean you're not allowed to love her. Lily thought for a long moment. If I love Daddy and Mommy, is that a sin? No, I said, stroking her hair. You did nothing wrong. Your job is just to grow up kind. Let adults carry their own mistakes. She hugged me tighter. In that embrace, my anger slowly changed shape. Not gone, but no longer burning, like a wound beginning to grow new skin. Life found a new rhythm. Mornings, breakfast, Lily getting ready for school, Daniel driving her. Afternoons, Dylan sometimes stopped by to help with the business. Evenings, the house filled with Lily's laughter, not crying anymore. One night, months after the verdict, I sat alone in the living room. The wall clock neared midnight. Lily was asleep. Daniel was on a one-day business trip out of town. I looked at the chair where I once received Emily's call. Everything looked the same, but I wasn't. I used to wait for fate to crush me. Now I knew I could choose to fight. My phone vibrated. Daniel. My heart jumped remembering that midnight long ago, but this time my hand didn't shake. Hello, sweetheart? Mom, I'm sorry to call so late, Daniel said, tired but warm. The train just departed. I can finally relax. It's okay. I'm still awake. A pause. I just wanted to say thank you. If you hadn't opened that back door, I would be dead. If you had just cried and surrendered, my name would be on a gravestone. Tears welled, but didn't choke me. I should thank you too, I said softly. If you hadn't knocked that night, I might have given up on life. Turns out, we both survived the edge. Daniel cluckered. I promise, Mom, if I make your heart race again, it'll only be because I forgot to text, not because I almost died. Don't joke like that, I scolded, smiling. Take care of Lily. Of course. Who do you think's been guarding her? We laughed quietly. After the call, I sat in silence. I looked toward the back door, the door where Daniel once stood bleeding. Now it was closed, locked, ordinary. I've heard the worst from this door, and I've seen a miracle come through it too. I turned off the living room light. Before bed, I peeked into Lily's room, peaceful breathing. Daniel's bed was empty, for now, but it would be filled again tomorrow morning. Carmen